I have a very important question for you. Do you believe in fairies? Hello and welcome back to another Behind the Books video, my series where I talk about books, films, media that have influenced my writing over the years. And today we are indeed talking about fairies. Not fae, not these, let's be honest, elves with wings. There we go, I said it, haters gonna hate. But we are not talking about those, the hunky, very human-like fae. No, we are talking about small, little itty-bitty, cute, whimsical fairies. And especially this little book here that we had growing up, A Flower Fairy Alphabet by Cicely Mary Barker. And Cicely Mary Barker lived in England. She was born in 1895 and died in 1973. Just have to check my notes there. And she was actually homeschooled because she had epilepsy. So she spent her time reading and drawing. And she was particularly influenced by the very famous Kate Greenaway. Now, Kate Greenaway was a children's illustrator in that previous century, and there is in fact an illustration award called the Kate Greenaway Award, and that is for children's illustration and children's books. So just to have a quick flick through, these are all nursery rhymes which she has illustrated. You will surely recognise some of these figures because they're all over the place. She was very famous and she influenced Cicely Mary Barker. Now, in 1908, Cicely's father enrolled her in the Croydon Art Society, and after she'd completed some courses there, she became a lifetime member of the Croydon Art Society. Mary was also influenced by the Victorian enthusiasm in fairies, brought about by such works as Peter Pan by J.M. Barrie, and the most iconic fairy that we all know and love today, known as Tinker Bell. But also in 1917, 1919, there were two girls and they took pictures of fairies at the bottom of their garden. And these photos were made public and caused a huge controversy throughout England at the time because people wanted to know, they wanted to believe that these fairies were real, but at the same time there were people trying to disprove these photos and name them fakes. And in 1997 a film was made of this particular story, Fairy Tale, A True Story, with some very famous actors in. I remember watching it as a child and absolutely loving it, being kept in that suspense. Were the pictures real? Are fairies real? And so yeah, I highly recommend you go and watch that film. And this led on to Mary's first book, Fairies of Springtime, coming out in 1923. And the war-weary public really needed some hope, some positivity and innocence to look forward to. And it really swept their imagination away, and so she created lots more books and postcards around her fairies. What I really like as well, I did a bit of, as you could tell, I did a bit of research on Cicely Mary Barker, and she actually used real children as her models for all the fairies. I'll just find a few of my favourite. Oh look, there we go. Apple Blossom. So those were based on real children. She also got in touch with the staff at Kew Gardens to make sure that her paintings of the flowers were botanically correct. Now, I do like strawberry, it's rather cute, but possibly one of the most famous pictures is of the Pansy Fairy. Now, she did many books. She did Flower Fairies of the Spring, Autumn, Summer, Winter. This book I've got here is the alphabet, so there's a flower for each letter of the alphabet and a little poem that goes with them. There are Flower Fairies of the Trees, of the Gardens. So really, really a lovely book. This book was also published by Frederick Warne, which is the same publisher that did the Beatrix Potter novels, and they might be showing up at some point. So this is Cicely Mary Barker, and a little bit about her. Now, why was this an influence to me? Well, one of my core memories, I don't know how old I was at the time, but I do remember either we were staying with my granny for Christmas or we just visited on Christmas Day, which actually, because we moved around a lot, we didn't see her very often for Christmas. And I just remember in the corner of the room, this huge Christmas tree, and on it were two little fairies, one blue and one red. Mine was the blue one, and actually she was very similar colouring to this little one here. This is not the original fairy, I'm sad to say. I played with that one so much that it eventually broke. You could move all her limbs and she had real fabric dress. She was really beautiful. I'm quite sad I don't have her anymore. But these two little fairies were on the tree, and this book may also have been on that Christmas tree that year. So yeah, that's a core memory for me, these fairies at my granny's house. And a few years later, I was also gifted by the same granny a rather beautiful necklace, which, I don't know if you can see, looks rather familiar to this little fairy. So in fact, she is the necklace of the fairy in this book. I have now given this to my daughter. I don't tend to wear my fairy necklaces very much. But did this influence my books? I think so. Maybe not directly, but the whimsical nature of having a fairy related to a specific plant. If you look at my Zemkoska Chronicles series, you'll see that in the hierarchy of the world, the descendants of the naiads, they have magical powers related to certain types of plants. There are the arbors who have powers of trees, particular trees. So, for example, you might have the power over pine trees or oak trees. And a very well-known character in Appleseeds in the Snow has affinity with apple trees. And she actually has apple blossom sewn onto her clothes as a sign of her affinity. So I do think that this little book here and these little fairies definitely contributed to my writing. Did you ever read these books when you were little? Have you seen the posters anywhere? And more importantly, do you believe in fairies? There is in fact the Kate Greener, the Kate. There is actually an illustration award called the Kate Greenaway. I can't say that.